Michael Chandler takes on Paddy Pimblett this weekend at UFC 314, and in this video, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why Michael Chandler will defeat Paddy Pimblett. Enough of the nonsense, let's get into the video. As always, you know it's going to be a banger video when I whip out the PowerPoint presentation, 10 reasons why Michael Chandler will defeat Paddy Pimblett at UFC 314. And you know what? Let's just get into the first reason. First reason is the experience edge, all right? Michael Chandler has fought 6 of the current top 10 lightweights in the division. He fought Charles Oliveira twice. He fought Dustin Poirier. He fought Justin Gaethje. He fought Tony Ferguson, who I guess is in the top 10 current lightweight. But ultimately, this guy's resume is insane for how little time he's been in the UFC compared to Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's resume, who's on his resume? Bobby Green, who dove for a takedown against him, showing a lack of IQ at all. And then we also have Jared Gordon, who should have defeated Paddy Pimblett. And then we also have Tony Ferguson, who Chandler smoked himself. So really, when it comes to experience, there is no question who has more. It's Michael Chandler by a landslide. You might not like my first reason, but good thing this video has 10 good reasons to take Michael Chandler. Here's another one. Nuclear power, all right? This guy, Michael Chandler, is throwing cartoon-esque punches with how much force he's throwing into these hooks, into these overhands. He's putting everything in that frame into each of his punches, and it was shown in his UFC debut. He smoked Dan Hooker in the first exchange that happened. And guess what? Paddy Pimblett got tossed around and slapped around by Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, I'm going to reference him a lot in this video. Jared Gordon should have defeated Paddy Pimblett nearly 30-27. But this picture right here that I'm showing, Paddy Pimblett's getting rocked by Jared Gordon. Michael Chandler is good at entering the pocket and rocking people of his own. So, nuclear power. Michael Chandler's got it. Now, this next reason is a little questionable, but, you know, if you're willing to do anything it takes to win, I will support that. And honestly, Michael Chandler, not saying he's a cheater, but if you go back in almost all of his UFC fights, there is certain moments where, there could be some cheating. You know, right here, he's fish hooking Dustin Poirier to try to get under the chin. He even admitted that he fish hooked Dustin Poirier. That's the crazy part. But the thing is, he said he thought it was Dustin's chin. That's what Chandler said. He thought it was Dustin's chin. But ultimately, he wins by any means necessary. He's willing to go to lengths of cheating. He will grab the cage. He will grab your gloves. He will grab your face to win. Paddy Pimblett, he seems like too nice of a guy to cheat. I don't think, he's going to try to glove pull Michael Chandler. He doesn't have what it takes to do everything it takes to win. Michael Chandler's got that dog in him. He will do what it takes to win. Next point, I'm a big fan of this point. Michael Chandler is nearly unsubmittable. He survived 5 rounds with Charles Oliveira, and I would say 15 plus minutes of that 5-round fight was Charles Oliveira trying to get a rear naked choke, and Michael Chandler wasn't budging the whole time. And this is also the second time he fought Charles Oliveira. The first time, Oliveira also had his back in the first round, and Oliveira did not get close to a submission. I know Dustin Poirier submitted Michael Chandler, but you can make the argument that Chandler wasn't really training jiu-jitsu defense in that camp because, why would he expect Poirier to take his back? Stuff like that, You can throw that one up to the Cosmos. That is Chandler's only submission loss in his career. Now we look at Paddy Pimblett. He's not knocking out Michael Chandler on the feet. His main path to victory is this fight to somehow get to the ground and find a submission, and I just don't think that's going to happen. Paddy Pimblett doesn't really have takedowns in his game. Paddy Pimblett more relies on the fight just getting to the ground naturally than him actually shooting for a takedown. So if this stays standing like I think it will, Chandler's going to have his nuclear power to knock out Paddy. And if this gets to the ground, even if it does, I don't think Paddy will be able to submit Chandler because he's nearly unsubmittable. This next one, we're using a bit of MMA math to make my point, but Paddy Pimblett and Michael Chandler do have a similar opponent. That similar opponent is Tony Ferguson. All right, so Michael Chandler fought Tony Ferguson, and he straight up turned this guy into a meme. I mean, look at that face. He turned his face into a melted candle. I mean, look at that. He straight up just kicked him straight in the chin. and slept him. That's what happened when Chandler fought Tony Ferguson. But what happened when Paddy Pimblett fought Tony Ferguson? Keep in mind, he fought Tony Ferguson after this KO, which means that, Ferguson might have been a little more chinny. And guess what? Paddy Pimblett wins a decision against Tony Ferguson. He did come close a couple times to ending the fight, but ultimately, he was not able to get Tony Ferguson out of there. So, if we're looking at finishing ability with a similar opponent, Michael Chandler dusted Ferguson, Paddy decisioned him. So do with that what you will. Next point is a little tinfoil hatty. It is a little out there. I'm not gonna lie. It's a point that it might not be the best point, but it is a point nonetheless. Michael Chandler has been a dad for longer. That's it. I was going to say Chandler has more dad strength, but I didn't actually realize Paddy Pimblett had children of his own recently. But the thing is, I think Chandler has accumulated more dad strength. It's been more time that he served as a father compared to Paddy. Paddy's kids are barely a year old. Chandler's had kids for years. He's definitely accumulated more dad strength, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to spend too much time on this point, but you understand. Now, this next point, I love this next point. You guys know how Paddy, gets a little chubby, right? Well, guess what? Michael Chandler does it. He stays shredded and locked in regardless of fight news. This guy was on the sidelines for almost 3 years waiting for a Conor McGregor fight that never happened. And every time I seen him on social media, this guy still has an 8-pack, He has a 12-pack. He's shredded to the bone, veins popping every interview I see in. So there is no off season for Michael Chandler. He's constantly training, constantly in the gym, constantly shredded, constantly in shape. Now we look at Paddy Pimblett. This guy gains like 80 pounds the day after his fight. He gets insanely chunky, all right? He does train, sure, but he's chunky. He's not taking it serious when there's no fight on the line. When he's not in fight camp, Paddy's just eating whatever he wants. He's not treating his body right. Chandler, however, treats his body like a temple, and I think that's going to pay off when they meet in the octagon on Saturday. Next point, you might think it's a far out there, tinfoil hat point, but I kind of like this one. Desperation. Michael Chandler, if he were to lose to Paddy Pimblett, number one, that would probably be the worst loss of his career. All right, that's one. Number two, this would be a 3-fight losing streak for Michael Chandler. He could get cut. I doubt the UFC would cut Chandler because of how entertaining he is, but he's about to turn, 39 years old, and he will have just lost to Paddy Pimblett. So he could probably get cut. If not cut, his next fight will not be anywhere close to a title shot or title contention. So Chandler needs this win way more than Paddy does. Paddy's on a nice win streak in the UFC. He's yet to lose. He has literally nothing to lose by losing to Chandler. If he goes out there and gets KO'd by Chandler, people will say, oh, well, of course. Duh, it's Michael Chandler. But if Michael Chandler goes out there and loses, all of a sudden it's like, wow, is Michael Chandler washed? Is he done? Michael Chandler cannot afford to lose this one. Paddy Pimblett can. I think this is a solid point. Now, this next point, it's pretty simple, really. It comes down to 5-round experience. I actually did not realize that this fight was 5 rounds until I did a double take on Tapology and saw it was. Well, Michael Chandler has fought in 12 5-round fights, and Paddy has fought in 5 5-round fights. The difference being Chandler has fought in 5-round fights in the UFC already has a couple. Paddy has yet to even sniff a 5-round fight in the UFC. Michael Chandler has the championship edge experience when it comes to the championship rounds. I don't believe Paddy has that. Yes, Paddy's been to 5-5-round fights, but they were all in Cage Warriors, and they were all against, if we're being honest, mid to low level competition. This is going to be the best fighter he will have fought in a 5-rounder. Meanwhile, Chandler has fought Eddie Alvarez, Benson Henderson, way better people in 5-rounders than Paddy Pimblett, so this should be an edge for Michael Chandler. Now, this final point, I'm not trying to get canceled, but if we're being honest, if we're actually being honest with ourselves about who Michael Chandler is and who Paddy Pimblett is, what do they represent, what do they speak about in post-fight interviews? Well, Michael Chandler has the mental edge, all right? He's mentally locked. Paddy Pimblett is mentally unlocked, all right? Michael Chandler, I'm not anti-depression talk. I tend, I'm not saying, let's not go there. But Michael Chandler, this is going to be really hard to say without saying bad things. Michael Chandler is confident, okay? He is locked in, all right? Not once do you hear Michael Chandler saying, oh, I cried. Michael Chandler doesn't cry, all right? He is Iron Michael. Oh, God. Paddy Pimblett, however, this guy has a lot in his mind that's not fighting. And I tend to think that maybe those demons will lurk and present themselves come this Saturday. Michael Chandler is locked in. Thank you for getting to the end of another episode of Finn's Chats. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments who you got. You got Michael Chandler. Did this video help you pick Michael Chandler? Or are you sticking with Paddy Pimblett? You know, you don't really buy the reasoning that I'm throwing out there. You're sticking with the minus 150 favorite in Paddy Pimblett. Let me know in the comments where you guys stand, and make sure you have a great rest of your day. You savage.